Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker?
It's good to see you. Listen,
You're a Bitcoin maximalist. You're Bitcoin forever.
I hate this central bank digital currency.
Hey, I don't have all the answers.
Hey everybody, welcome to the show. It is Monday, almost the 4th of July. Woo. Big 250. Big 250. I don't know if Landy's going to join me today. He usually does, but he might not. He might be out. He might just be tired of coming on with me. Who knows? Anything's possible. 250. America 250. All right, end of the week. What do we think about that? It's amazing how much time can pass, 250 years when you think about it. It's a long time. I mean, people say it's not very long. It's a long time. Think in your own life. Just think if you think 5 years ago. When you see it in a movie, 5 years later, it seems like, oh, that's quick. But then really look at what happens in a span of 5 years, 7 years of your life, even 10 years of your life, right? It's a lot. If I look at my life 5 years ago, the pandemic was started 6 years ago-ish, and it was the beginning of the pandemic. We had the whole pandemic. That was a whole lifetime. And I left California because of the pandemic, and I lived in Florida for a while, did really cool things there with town halls, and went to Puerto Rico and, worked with a really, cool media company that's, doing crypto and blockchain and Web3 and politics, and then bounced all around and came back in Tennessee and got a girlfriend, got engaged, had a dog, lost a dog, a lot in a 7-year period. You take 250 years, a lot of lifetimes. It doesn't look like it when you first think about it, but it's a lot of lifetimes. It is a remarkable amount of lifetimes. Hang on. Good. I made myself go away. Landy, if you're there, message me in the private chat. I thought he was there. I thought I saw him. So when you think of that, the 250 year, what happened now? Where did I go? I'm back. Okay, man, I moved to find Landy, and I sent the whole thing, skewed the whole thing into craziness. It's like I said, it's a long, long time. Okay, now I messed it all up. I didn't have to do this. Any of you watching, just hold on. And I'm back. Whatever I did, I messed it all up. Shouldn't have tried to do that. I took myself off thinking I was putting Landy on, but Landy's not there. So anyway, that's my 250 rant. It's a long time. And we look at cycles of time, so we're commemorating 250 years of this country, which, that's a chunk. I've been alive a quarter of it. It's remarkable where we were 250 years ago and where we are today. And in some ways, it's when I think about it, it's not remarkable. In some ways, it's well, that's 250 years. I mean, yeah, that's a lot of time. It's more remarkable to me how far we've come in 50 years, to be honest. Maybe 100. you know? And when you think about just over 100 years ago, you know, people were really, you know, cars were becoming really popular, right? I mean, cars, there were cars in the late 1800s, right? The first one was, what was it, like the, I don't know, the Edison or whatever it was. I don't know. They're all the same big car companies, all came out of the early ones, right? Ford wasn't the first. He just did the automated assembly line. I think the guy who started Buick did the actual first assembly line. It just wasn't automated, so it wasn't as slow, it wasn't as fast, wasn't as cost efficient, made cars more expensive. And I think Mercedes, is it Mercedes? No. Who made the, see my history of who did what. The first, it might have been the actual first car. Somebody out there knows. The first car was, might have been like, you know, it was in the 1800s. And they pieced everything together by hand. But you know, look at like 100 years since the common use of automobiles, post-Model, you know, T, you know, everybody's kind of doing it. Industrial Revolution had kicked in full gear. It's a lot happened in that window from then to now, you know? We got in 2 world wars, like back to back, almost. We got in a world war. You know, like this is the other thing about war. We're in wars all the time, right? I mean, you know, we had in World War I, you know, and in like, you know, 1915 or whatever it was. And then we're in World War II in you know, late 40s, but World War II starts before that, you know, and then we have a depression in between. And then we'll end World War II and we get in the Korean War like just like 6 years later or something. It's crazy. It's almost as crazy as what's happening on my screen with the way it's freezing on me. So you got to ask yourself, you got to wonder why. You got to ask yourself, what is that about that happened? And that so much happened in that window. And that's just the beginning of it. I mean, when you look at technology, oh Lord, I don't know what's happening. What's happening here with technology? Why am I frozen? I'm unfrozen. I freeze and I unfreeze. I freeze and I unfreeze. It's like boom, ba boom, ba boom. Who knows? I think David put a curse on my computer. Then you look at, again, you look at like, just in terms of technology and advancement, where we've come from everybody having cars becoming more widely accepted and horses going away, to air travel becoming like everyone flies now. Some people take trains, everybody drives. That's just like transportation. Like everybody flies. Millions and millions of people fly every day. But even more remarkable is how we communicate, not just how we get around. And again, you know, we had planes 100 years ago. We had cars 100 years ago. We had trains, we had buses. We didn't have the ubiquitousness of them and commonness of us all using them. We certainly didn't have rockets going into space. We certainly weren't sending people to the moon. But even that was what, 60 years ago? 69? 79, 89, 90, 109, 90, 55 years, whatever, since we sent a man to the moon. Humans went to the moon over half a century ago, and we haven't done anything since. Now suddenly we're back in business, right? And SpaceX and, you know, Blue Origin, but SpaceX especially, and NASA, but SpaceX kicking off these mega rockets, go up and come back down and land themselves, you know, that kind of stuff. And, you know, we're getting ready to go back to the moon in a couple of years, and then onward to Mars. It's like we missed a little time there. But 100 years ago, going to the moon, I mean, it's remarkable that we did it in 50 and just didn't do anything for the next 50. I mean, we should have gone to Mars already. We just didn't. Communication is the biggest one. Gosh, how we've changed from how communication, energy, how we interact. Then I'm doing a live stream right now, that we've got phones that we can call everyone on and text and, you know, and FaceTime with and send videos, film anything. A computer more powerful than the earliest computers. And they didn't have computers 100 years ago. And, you know, this device can do just about, it's remarkable what it can do. The advances in weaponry, the advancement of drones, the slow movement away from humans having to line up. You still got Russia and Ukraine just killing off people left, right, and center. But we're nearing the end, I think, of mass casualty land wars in the sense of mass casualties with armies. We're not. We're getting where we're going to need to send a bunch of troops to occupy land. That's what Russia and Ukraine is, right? It's trying to occupy the land. One side pushes, they take the land, right? But we're already seeing, like in Iran, the power of a high of a explosively kinetic warfare, and we're seeing in Ukraine the power of drones, and we're seeing in Iran the power of not. I mean, they've got plenty of ballistic missiles that they use, and they got their aircraft boats. They're little boats. They're drones and their small navy. They don't need a big navy and a big air force and a lot of air defenses. They don't even need nukes to wreak havoc. I oddly enough think the era of nuclear power is being slightly moved to an era of a different kind of power, which is going to be, I'm going to call it cybernetic power. It's a combination of military threats, but nobody wants to launch a nuclear weapon at anyone, except Iran, if they had one, probably would at Israel, because they don't really care what happens to them. They're like, we're all going to, Allah's taking us up anyway, so let's wipe the Jews out. Who cares what comes back? They clearly don't care about their people. They could care less about their 90 million people. They killed 40,000 over a shot, boom, pop. They do it again in a heartbeat. I think they'd take a nuke easy if they could get rid of Israel. Wipe out the Jews? Woo! They'd be like party time. Other than them, maybe North Korea, but even North Korea, he's not, Kim Jong-un is a little maybe kooky, but I don't think he wants acceptance more than he wants to be accepted more than he wants to blow up countries. The mullahs in Iran don't want to be accepted. They could care less about being accepted. Their entire reason for existence as a country, not Iran pre the 1979, but since the Islamic regime came in, since the mullahs came in, their entire existence, their entire rationale as a government was born to disrupt, born to create regional instability, born to destroy Western culture and take out the Jews. They are on a religious mission, infantada, if you will, out to go after that which they perceive in their extreme Islamic interpretation of Islam is their mission to wipe out the Satan of the West and the Jews and Western culture. And thus it's so important that they punish people for exhibiting Western culture. Why can't women show their show any body? Because that goes against their interpretation of what Islam says, their interpretation, how a woman should dress. Now, other more moderate Muslims may share that clothing thing, but the punishment for women not doing it, because are now becoming like you've been poisoned by the Satan of the West. Can you imagine them like in an American beach? Although I'm sure all the elites go and go to strip clubs and do all that stuff when they're in Europe or whatever, and their kids, everyone's partying or whatever. Rules for thee, not for me. But point is, their entire raison d'etre, raison. I don't know what's the actual French saying. Raison d'etre. Their entire reason for existing as a government is to disrupt. This is why I have questions about this whole peace process, which is just a joke. It's just a shambles. I wish Landy was here to defend it. I'm not blaming us for it. I'm just saying I think we're actually trying to negotiate in good faith. It's just like how much more evidence do you need to see who Iran is? I know everyone, at JD Vance's credit, it's like, look, we'll see what they do. We're hardly taking them at their word, but they can't even abide by a ceasefire, and they're certainly prodding Hezbollah to keep going. I really think Iran's goal is just to get as much money in as quickly as they can and stall. The longer they stall, the better. They were battered. The more they can try to regroup, the better. I also am not sure who's negotiating and the president, if they really have authority. Or is it just good cop, bad cop? I don't know if they even have the reins on the Revolutionary Guard. It's possible the Revolutionary Guard is just taking the military actions, or maybe they're saying, "Yeah, go tell them we're going to make a deal. Just buy us time," because they're not changing behavior at all, and they're not even publicly pretending they're going to. They're like, "We will do what we want as Iran. No one will tell us what to do. No one will tell us how to run our affairs, which includes proxies. No one will tell us what to do with our money. No one will tell us what to do with the Strait. We'll decide." So it becomes a kind of complicated scenario. I see Landy's here, so I'm going to bring him in a minute. In which I want to give Landy's position credit. I think he's very accurate about what Iran is doing, about what the U.S. is trying to accomplish. I just have zero faith that Iran has any intention of following any of it, and I don't think they even want to appear to. I think they just are stalling. I mean, they can't abide by a ceasefire anywhere for more than 2 minutes. And then they immediately just to say anything we said wasn't what really got said. And then they say the Straits, theirs if they want it to be, and they'll do it again. I mean, they're almost like begging us. I think they're just begging Trump, come on, dare you to punch me. Because they think he won't right now. And he probably won't right now. But he might just be waiting till he can't wait any longer or to get through the midterms. And then that's the one in Landy series, and then bring the hammer down. But they're going to taunt him and taunt him and taunt him. And the only thing they've got going right now is he can say, they said they won't have a nuclear weapon, which they said 10, 11 years ago. They've said forever. Their word is meaningless. We'll see if they'll even let us get close to it. We can't even get through the ceasefire. Let me bring Landy in. How did I get to that from talking about my real point here, which was American 250? Hey, Landy.
Hey, it would not let me in for some reason.
20 more minutes, Landy, but it's good to see you. I didn't think you'd stand me up. I don't know why I wouldn't let you in. It didn't me in at first either.
Yeah, that was weird.
It's David's jerry-rigged the platform along with the Iranians. So,
yeah, I had trouble on Friday. I had trouble on Friday. I couldn't for some reason my feed going out was really low bit rate and like all kinds of stuff was going on. So it seems
mine
like
too. I'm telling you, he's mined the Strait of GNN to fuck with us. Landy, I don't want to spend our whole 20 minutes on Iran, but I was just inadvertently diverted into it from talking about the America 250 years that's gone on. And here I want to ask you and say, I've thought a lot and realized, in all seriousness, I actually agree very much with your assessment of what is happening, why we are acting the way we're acting, what we hope to get from that, and why we're making the choices we're making right now. I am increasingly convinced by watching Iran's behavior that one of a couple things is happening. And I am concerned that we have decided for now not to put limits on their ballistic missiles. I think one of the things I was saying earlier is I think Iran thought it needed a nuclear weapon. I think it's still going to try to get one, but I think it's realizing just how much it can do with ballistic missiles and a small navy, the little hovercraft navy, and drones. Like you see what Ukraine's doing with drones, plus possibly moving forward with cyber warfare. And so to me, them saying we won't have a nuclear weapon, one, I don't believe it any more than I believed it when they said it in 2015, which they did say. So Trump saying they said it, that it's meaningless because they already said that. But I am concerned that they may not care, that they simply exist to create regional unrest and have no interest in, maybe they're just stalling, or maybe they're actually the people negotiating the president aren't in control of what the Revolutionary Guard does, or they're just literally stalling for time because they're going to see how long they can wait before we punch them again. And every day they wait is a day they heal. Because it doesn't appear like they have any real interest in making a meaningful agreement with us.
I would not agree with your assessment that every day they wait, they heal. There is massive problems inside Iran right now for the regime. They're dealing with a lot of internal pressures, a lot of infighting. There's a lot happening over there that the wider media is obviously not going to be paying attention to. Immediately shifted over to what was going on in Iraq because they don't want to discuss the reality of what's happening on the ground in Iran, internally, and the turmoil that the leaders there are in at this particular moment. And I think that that is where we see, I mean, we saw some of the videos and some of the conflicting messages that different members the um, of the government apparatus there and military apparatus have been
Hmm.
putting out, right?
Hmm.
So I think
And
that
let me
I think
interrupt you
they're in
for a
full
second.
on chaos.
I didn't mean when I said every day. I agree with you. When I said every day they wait, I meant I meant we did a lot of damage, right?
Yeah.
They're not getting better from that damage if we're still pummeling them. And when I just meant every day we're not bombing them is a good day for them. They're already, as you said, in a mess. They don't get in
Mhm.
a better state if we can just bomb them more. So if they can buy a couple weeks off of bombing or a month, isn't that good? Isn't that like good? Well, we would have been even worse shape if they'd been bombing us the whole time.
Um, I'd argue that strategically, you have to have a period of where they are not being hammered, because when they're all being hammered at the same time by night after night of missiles, and then trying to coordinate sending retaliatory fire, or trying to figure out where the Americans or Israeli are flying over their airspace, which they sucked at doing, which is why we completely just decimated them. Big thing there is that if you allow for a period for them to just try and figure out, I mean, look at the way that the supporters of the current regime have completely flipped on the negotiators and the negotiations. They hate every part of it because they
Hmm.
know, they see it they see it as treason, essentially. I mean, they've said as
Yeah.
much, and that's one of the reasons why I think that you're probably seeing, parts of the apparatus, the parts of their mosaic that they have for their infrastructure starting to lash out again, during, over the weekend, and then, of course, retaliatory strikes from us, which were not they were those were fairly substantial retaliatory strikes. Those were definitely sending a message. Now, I think that you need to let them infight. You need to let them deepen the divides that they have internally, because I really do think that the only way that there is any revolution for Iran and the Iranian people is that is internal infighting, and you need time for that to play out. And, we've got our finger on the trigger right at their doorstep. So, like, go ahead and do whatever you want to do. We're watching you flail. It's like when an animal is trapped and it's trying to find its way out. You think like, oh, well, it found one corner, but then it gets its leg stuck, and it's got to gnaw its own leg off just to reassess the situation. So I think, my view of it is that
Mm.
this is being played, and the game is changing, and what might look good for them isn't necessarily good, because even the regime, they're tentative to even touch any American dollars or any American support, because once the Americans infect, they start getting their ideological hooks in you and changing people's minds. Like, they're really actually afraid of this.
I know.
See,
I know.
for
I
as
get
much
it.
as they lash out, they're scared of us. That's one of the
Well, of
reasons
course they
why
are.
they
Of
are
course they are.
so fervently against
But
us.
they are scared. But Lanny, and then I want to move on. But I mean, I
Sure.
really think, and I agree with you, but I feel like I'm saying you're missing something, but I feel like you're making a fundamental assumption that I don't share, and I don't. We'll see who's right. Um, I do not think this regime has any interest in stability. They want internal stability so they can control power. But I don't think they have any interest in regional stability. Regional stability doesn't help Iran. They have no interest in becoming part of the broader nation of the Gulf. Regional
Mm.
instability helps them. They absolutely want to do whatever they can to hurt Israel. They would love to disrupt energy markets as often as possible and cause the West and the whole world chaos. And they're the same way you say they're scared of our values. I think they're in a holy war to the fight only they have to fight. They were designed to fight, and they will fight till everything's gone. And there's
Y
no surrender. they're like the Japanese, like the emperor. It's like everyone will die to the end. Like,
Yeah,
so I don't think they really want to make peace. I mean, they
I
think
want
they're
to give
just,
you
that's
some
what I meant
food
by
for
buying
thought.
time.
I want to give you some food for thought. And
No, but
this I
wait,
think is going to be very
consider what I
important
said.
for Friday. I'm
Consider
going
what
to,
I
but
said.
I want to give you some food for thought. You know that the actual biggest problem that Iran faces, do you know what that problem is?
I don't know. You're going to tell me.
Water. You know that
Okay.
in 2025 that they were even considering Przeskin, it was even considering moving the capital to the coast,
Okay.
right? Because of water. One of
Okay.
the biggest problems that they have internally is internal, and it is systemic, and it is a massive problem. If they don't get help from countries like Russia and China, they're not long for this world no matter what. They have a massive water issue, and
Okay.
they do not have the resource. This is even more important than having their entire oil business offline, is water for the survivability of their population, including all the way up to the top levels of the theocracy. And you know what the Gulf states can do? The Gulf states can help support them if they wanted to turn over a new leaf, because they're going to die either way without the support of Russia, China,
Yeah.
and hey, by the way, looking at you, London, because London provided
Yeah.
a lot of support as well.
Look, you didn't address my thing, but I appreciate the water thing, and that is my thing. My thing is we have a fundamental. I don't think their goal, any move they make for stability, oil revenues, getting water from the Gulf, feeding their people, any practical goal that any nation would want, they are merely doing, in my mind, to survive long enough to be better able to cause chaos. And they were
I
formed,
agree.
their entire mission is to, so it's only a
That
temporary
will
buy.
cannibalize
If they'll
them.
give us water for now, then we'll get hydrated and then we can kill more of you. Like, it's
Yeah,
like
but
that
guess
to me.
what?
It's not like,
It's going to
well, then play good.
cannibalize them. It will cannibalize
What's
them, you
that?
see, because this is what will be their undoing, and that's why they don't wanna do any kind of a deal. That's why there's so much pushback against any kind of a deal with the Americans, because they know that they are on their last leg, and if they accept anything from the Gulf states, the United States, that it will come back to bite them in the form of a turnover in their
Mhm.
government. This
Mhm.
is the problem, because
Yeah, you're
if
probably right
with their
about that.
ferventness to buy themselves time, okay, I'm going to buy myself time. We're going to get some money in from oil exports. We're going to get some water in from foreign desalination plants and on ships, because they're having a very bad time with that. We're going to get some agriculture products in from the United States. We're going to we're going to use this so that we can survive to kill more of them. But the problem is, as soon as the this starts to occur, the undercurrent of society begins to shift beneath their feet. And this is actually what they're afraid of, because they're afraid that this is what will actually embolden the people to initiate a revolution there. And this is the biggest, this is actually, they were talking about this. There's some of the IRGC supporters were out there protesting against this for these exact reasons. So
Mhm.
I'm curious to see
We'll
how
see.
this plays out. I
We'll
don't
see.
disagree with you.
We'll see.
I don't disagree with you, but from a tactical standpoint, without Russia,
Yeah.
without China's support, they're screwed. They have not, and everything they do will only further their own destruction, in my personal opinion. That's my personal opinion.
Well, they
They're
still
damned
may
if they
have
do,
Russia
damned
and
if they
China's
don't.
support, even illicitly. But I'm going to shift
Yeah,
gears here,
true.
and the shift
Sure.
is but it actually plays into what I think why I'm worried there won't be a revolution in Iran. I think we are, what I was talking about before you came on was sort of the 250-year arc of our country, and I was sort of built up to the idea that I think the most remarkable change in the last 100 years, because that's a long time, is really not even so much in, like, I made the example, like, we had planes 100 years ago. Now everybody's using them, but people flew, people had cars, it's just very different, right? The biggest truly change, it to me, is what's happened with ultimately with our cyber abilities, with the digital age, and particular artificial intelligence. And I feel like Iran is able to suffuse and suppress a rebellion because the entire world is hooked on how it communicates. So if you can shut that off, we're a digital world now. It's why I'm scared of a central bank digital currency. If you have a central bank digital currency, a government can, Landy, they could make me disappear in 5 seconds, and every single thing about me would be erased.
Yeah.
I'm
So what
saying
are you
that's what
driving towards
I
then?
shifted to. No, so I'm saying I'm worried about just on the Iran front. I'm worried that it's going to be hard to have a revolution because they don't have weapons, and they can Iran can black them out, so it can black the people out, so they can't communicate, they can't get anything, they can't use satellites, they can't they can't know where anything is. Like it's hard to form a mass movement when the most powerful weapons in the world are increasingly becoming non-kinetic, but becoming technological. And we're seeing that with drones. We're seeing that with cyber warfare. I mean, the U.S. military's one of its top priorities is figuring out how to really prepare for a future where cyber warfare will become the new nuclear bombs.
Yeah, we're way ahead of everybody.
Yeah, but still, I'm saying it's a top priority. It's like the old bomb was a nuclear one. The new one is the tech one, and that's an interesting thing.
We've been fighting World War III already online. It's
sort of in an odd way.
World War III is a hearts and minds narrative war. It's information warfare.
Yeah,
and economic warfare.
Yeah, I'd agree with you. I would totally agree with you. And that's what we are in. And that's why I say we're in my mind, I joke, in our own country, we're in a version of a cultural civil war. I like the way you put it. It's a hearts and minds warfare, and even in our own country, we're having a war on it, on people's hearts and minds. And
yes.
I think that can lead to physical conflict or could lead to physical division. It wouldn't surprise me if in the next decade you see serious movements for secession from certain states in the U.S.
Maybe.
I'm saying it happened. Wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, I wouldn't necessarily be surprised, but this is not something that is new in terms of feeling, but it is hitting a fever pitch. And I think it's hitting a fever pitch on multiple fronts. And it starts with the culture wars, right? And that is now boiled over into the formation of extremes. We talked a little bit about this on Friday, and that's like, I've said this for a very long time. There is no real difference between the far left and the far right.
Yeah, I agree with you. Well, for the most part.
Different versions of it. Yeah, different versions of some sort of authoritarianism, right?
And by the way, I would say the same with the left and the right populists, which are not always as far to the extremes, but the true populists on the fringes of both parties have a lot in common.
Yeah, but they're indistinguishable at this point because Trump is not necessarily, he doesn't govern as a populist. He's painted as a populist, but he doesn't govern that way.
Right.
And most of the Democrat Party leadership, which is very quickly changing as there is a bit of a changing of the guard over there, as the Democrat Party leadership has basically laid down to die on their swords.
Let's talk about that for 5 minutes, Landy, because we talked about that on Friday with David. I got to wrap us in at the 22, but
okay.
But we were talking about that. I wasn't thinking and looking. I think the wave of the Democratic Socialists is even bigger. I mean, now think about it. Like they're going to make a run, at it in Wisconsin for the governorship, and I think she's got a good chance of winning. Succeeding, Governor Evers, who's, pretty liberal already, right? There's an increasingly number of places, remember I said the governorships will be the hardest, but like we're seeing that, right? I think that you're right, that the trad leadership is laying down its swords and surrendering, and the new leadership is coming from the far left. And I think it's gonna, and it's hitting a nerve with people.
Well, it's not even far left. It's the disguise is far left, but they're actual communists, right? So they actually have communist ideologies over there, and they're branding themselves as populist socialists, but they're actually communists. And one is just it's just a step in to get, socialism is a step to communism, in my opinion. Um, but these are
But let me
actual
stop you on that.
communists.
It doesn't have to be.
But it is,
I'm saying, but I
and you
mean, I'm
know it.
not sure they're all communists. I don't know
No, they
necessarily
are.
know it. I definitely think they're socialist without much of a framework for using the marketplace. So essentially, they want the government to own production.
They
Yes. Does
literally
that make them
espouse
communists?
Marxist ideology.
Some
They don't
pieces
ex
of it, yeah.
but they brand it as socialist ideology, which this just shows you how stupid, a lot of people are because they don't actually understand the differences between socialism and communism.
It's your point. Hearts and minds. It's a battle of hearts and minds. It's not a battle. That's what I'm saying. You don't have to understand. You don't even have to sell people the truth. You just have to convince them that it makes sense
Well
in a framework that they're comfortable with and they'll buy it. That's what's scary about now. That's what's different than, say, I mean, this has always been true. If you go back to the early parts of the country, people still did this. You still had the pamphleteers and you still had the people, pushing these extreme narratives, but you had a much more educated population who voted and they were more informed about issues. Now, you can literally just make shit up and get enough people to believe it and they'll think it's true and they'll go for it, like hearts and minds.
I mean, you can look
Palestine,
at
Hamas is good. Hamas is good, say young, liberal, women all over America. Hamas is great. But how could that be? They would behead you basically. They'd just ignore that piece. Like, no, they're really good, freedom loving.
well,
Like,
that's
just
yeah, well, that's because that's an active choice. It's a choice to not accept reality, and reality is what I make it kind of a choice. And here's so my point behind this is that the
yeah, but
the
that's
movement is
us.
far
That's
more
all of us.
but yeah, but my point behind it is that the movement is far more insidious than it is even at face value, because it's not a socialist movement. It's Democratic Socialists of America are communists. There's a difference there. And even they know the difference, but they won't explain the difference to anybody that even follows and supports them, because they don't want to explain the history behind any of these ideologies and these plans for the future. And in terms of it's obviously, the joke is that you just haven't tried the right kind of socialism. Well, the problem is that socialists and Marxists are two very different things, and that's the
I agree with
actual
that.
there is an actual difference there. But one of the problems here is you have Democrat leadership has laid down and let them get trampled by the DSA style candidates. And why? And I said this on Friday to you, and this is something that I told you in the Beltway. Republicans are going, "Yep, clap, clap, clap. It gets what you paid for." But this is a dangerous game to play. And what the leadership is doing for the Democrat Party is they're laying down the sword, because they're also going to draw the line of differences and say, "No, no, no, we are." Here they are. We're going to lay down the swords, let them in so you can see who they are. Basically, if you shine light on them, you can expose them, kind of a thing. But the Democrats have taken to this tack. They've now said, okay, you probably saw the Promise to America stuff, the 13
Mm-hmm.
Democrats that came out. Now that coalition
Mm-hmm.
is growing. The problem is the Democrats are playing an even more dangerous game than the Republicans who are cheering this shit on, because if you allow it in the door, you're giving them legitimate power over policy in their districts, and you're giving them a lot of influential capital to throw their weight around subsequent races. And they can raise money and will raise money from outside of this country, and they will get the rest of their cohorts elected, and you will be wiped out. Democrats, you're going to get wiped out. They will destroy your party. You will be gone. You cannot just highlight them
That's
and
okay.
say, well, no, 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 it's not okay, because this
Sure,
is
I
this is
don't
the
think
same
communism is
mindset.
going to take over America.
It's a slippery slope.
Longer
But look at
conversation
London.
for another day, but I don't think this. Andy, I get it, and I'm not a like an anti-communist like you. I find communism kind of a joke, and it's never worked anywhere. And the Chinese call themselves communists,
It,
and
it's
they are in a
it's
sense,
a
but they're mostly an authoritarian state that has
yeah.
democratic,
They're
as
communist
democrat,
in name only, really. Yeah,
communist in name only, and they're essentially market capitalists as an economic structure. They allow a lot of room for economic,
but they're
autonomy.
communist.
And my point is,
They're
it
more
never works.
socialist than
It's
even
not
communist. I
probably
would
yes,
argue they're
and
free
yeah,
market
exactly.
socialists, basically,
Maybe
which is
North
an
Korea. I don't
oxymoron.
even know. But my point is, it's not.
Yeah.
We're not having a communist takeover of the United States. I don't think we ever were having one. Even when Reagan thought we were, even when Kennedy thought we were, I don't think we ever were. Like,
No, but you can have a communist takeover of the Democrat Party.
yeah. And then the Democrat Party will become largely irrelevant over time, and a new independent party will
But this is
replace it.
but this has been the problem with the Democrats is that they've become policy irrelevant. That's
Hmm.
what's opened the door in the first place. And once
Hmm.
you open that door, my point to you is once you open that door, you get you get rent controlled cities. You get a pause on for rents in New York City, and then you get
Hmm.
destruction of businesses. And when by the time winter comes around, all those landlords aren't going to have money to actually pay for, heat and the
I
bills
know.
that
I
go
know.
along with it
I know how
to
this all
keep
goes.
infrastructure up and running. And then it all goes down the shitter, just like it does in every communist nation. And that's what
Yeah,
will
but it's going to
happen here in
only
the United
happen in
States.
certain areas. It's not
Yeah,
going to
but
happen to the whole U.S.
just because
That's why I'm
this
saying
is,
you could see
but
some
this is the
secession.
same
If this
argument.
takes over.
This is the same. This is the same argument that people, well, it's not in my city until it is.
No, but it's my point. It's not going to spread everywhere any more than like there's a reason we are so divided, and I do think we are. Communism's not taking over Florida. The voters in Florida aren't going to elect those people. Neither are the voters in any number in most really true red states. Even the states, the purple states, I think it's unlikely. It's the extreme blue states that it could start doing it, and that's why I could see
But
certain
these
either
extreme blue
them
states were
seceding,
red not that long ago.
or red states seceding. Because we want nothing to do with each
My
other.
point to you, Rob, is this is a dangerous game,
Commie
and even those,
California, we don't want to be part of in red state
yeah, but
Texas.
these states were at one point red. Those states that you just mentioned, they were red. Remember, it wasn't that long ago that California was a Republican state run by a Republican governor. You not that long
What?
ago, you had.
What?
Do you not remember? It wasn't that long ago.
Ronald Reagan was a Democrat back then.
No, I didn't say Reagan.
Oh, you're talking about Schwarzenegger?
Yeah, it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, but I don't think he's like a. Yeah, but I don't think if it was he was an aberration. I don't think I lived in California. I didn't feel like it was a super. I mean, there's a lot of Republicans. They're just not in the urban areas, right? I mean, that's a whole other conversation. There's a lot of
The whole
Republicans,
state is
not a
red except
majority.
San Francisco, LA, and
San
the
Diego.
cities. Yeah,
Well,
San Diego.
even San
Yeah.
Diego. But I'm
Even
saying
San
there's
Diego's
still a
red.
greater number. It's more divided. There's a greater number of Democrats than Republicans per the whole population. But I don't think it's. I could see you're losing a lot of the conservative people. I'm just saying I could see California turning bluer and bluer to the point
Because
that it
people
turns
leave.
communist pink.
Yeah, like in New York, they leave. Like in Wisconsin and Michigan, they leave. That's
Right.
what's happening is we are getting this where we're getting a higher concentration of Democrats in areas, and then in that higher concentration, you're seeing that, like in New York, all of the Republicans start leaving. You're losing, you're getting that attrition. That's what the Democrats want, but then it's coming back to bite them because they're just laying down for the DSA
Hey,
candidates.
hey, Andy, I'm telling you, this is not. I don't think it's going to play out exactly the way you'd think. I agree with you. What's happening? I
I'm just saying
think
it's dangerous. It's a dangerous game for the Democrats to play.
I
is what I'm
think
saying.
we're going to see a little bit what happened with the European Union, where you're going to have. I think certain states are at risk of becoming the Greases of the European Union.
Oh
Not that
God.
Greece is a fine place, but you know what I'm saying? Like your economy's so underwater and the rest aren't. I could see New York tanking its economy. And at that point, I'm not sure what happens. It doesn't spread like a virus into the other red states. They just are like, don't bring your shit to us. You guys, good luck over there in your state.
But it does. You know how it does? It spreads to those other states through the next generation going through college, because this is where it stemmed from. It's all began
We'll see.
with the targeting of the educational system.
Well, we'll see. I agree
All it
with the
takes-
targeting the educational system. We'll see. Yeah, less and less people, Andy, that's going to change too, Landy. Less and less people are going to keep going to college. And yes, you'll still have an intelligentsia elite who do, but they're going to be less. Just the power structure change. We got a lot more to talk about, Landy. We have to
Yes.
pick this up next Monday. I'm glad we don't just talk about Iran. It's fun for a little bit, but these are all interesting. This is a much more immediate, long-term and medium-term problem for us. I'm not worried Iran's going to ever get a nuclear weapon at this point. I think they're going to keep trying. I am worried, by the way, that they're going to continue to wreak havoc and be a regional disruptor. And I'm a little worried this is not going to change anything except a more extreme. But yeah, I want you to be right. I want to see that either it does change something or we just go in and finish the job eventually, one way or the other. But
if they keep firing missiles, we're gonna flatten them. That's for sure.
Listen, my vote for that, right? Rob's voted for that outcome. I'm for the. Although I also understand it may or may not ultimately make much of a difference because we're not putting boots on the ground. But Landy, it's always fun to talk about all these things: politics, national, international.
We can pick it up on Friday.
We can pick it up on Friday in our 15-minute segment. I'll be in Wisconsin. I'll be in Wisconsin. Well, you're on forever with him. He only lets me on for 15 minutes, but we go longer, so it's good.
Yeah, just show up early. I'll bug him.
But I'll be in Wisconsin. I show up early. He won't let me on. He'll just make me sit there while you guys talk about, about
crypto,
whatever. Crypto. I can talk about crypto, whatever. I got plenty to say about crypto. Spent 5 years doing, the crypto for the street.
Yep.
Well,
I appreciate you having me on, Rob.
Always love having you, man. I'll talk to you.
All right.
Have a good one.
Take care. Bye.
Bye. All right, everybody. That's Landy. Landy's fantastic. Watch Landy. Landy is a genius at a lot of things. One day I want to see what Landy looks like. Even I don't know. I don't think David knows. He might literally just look like his Bitcoin monkey there. Who knows? He could be an AI generated voice, except I don't think so because he was already talking and doing this before AI was good enough at really doing effective voices. But soon Landy could come on my show and it could just be his AI and I probably wouldn't know the difference. And probably not that far away, I'll be able to come on my show and you won't know the difference. Even with the physical body stuff, it's not quite there yet. Certainly if it's just an audio show, it'll be right there. We'll talk about that. I'm working with some pretty cool AI companies. Twin Angel, ASI1, Fetch, BlockX, all good stuff. All right, everybody. I'm hopefully going to see y'all Wednesday. Those of you who listen with David coming on. I'm going to Wisconsin, which Landy and I were just talking about. But I should be there in time to do the show. So that'll be my plan. I'll do the lead up to the 4th to the big 250. All right, everybody. Thanks for watching. I'm Rob Nelson.
Meet Rob Nelson, talk show host.
Because you got the 70s thing going there. I got someone's underwear.
Robert Kennedy, thanks for taking a minute. Simple question.
Tucker, it's good to see you. Listen,
You're a Bitcoin maximalist.